Hello, Internet! I'm Elliot the Purple Artificer, and welcome to Buddy Reads, where I read a small selection of a book and review it for you. Today we are covering chapters 3 and 4 of Artemis by Andy Weir. I hope you've read up to that point because I do not want to ruin anything for you. Before we get into the story, I just want to wish everyone a happy Turkey Day! Or Thanksgiving, or whatever you might be celebrating today. Unless you aren't celebrating anything, then I hope you're just having a fantastic Thursday. Or maybe Friday. Or day of the week, whenever you're watching this. I hope it's fantastic. Now let's get to the story. Our section begins with Jazz and Trond, and they are breaking into the factory that she needs to sabotage. They are looking over the machinery. Jazz is looking at it, and Trond says, now, you can't just break this, because if you break this, it'll be down for a couple days, and they'll repair it. It really won't help me at all if you only break it. You have to completely dismantle and destroy this equipment. And she's looking it over and she says, you know, I could work on this, I can do this, but I'm going to need equipment. I'm going to need a specific robot, a specific device to truly destroy this equipment. And Trond says, you do what you need to do, I just need it done quickly. And she says, of course, but I need to go visit with a few people to get the tools. And Trond says, great. Jazz goes back to her place and she decides that she's going to take a bath. And she's like, the extra credits that I have to pay in order to take this bath are so worth it. And she dreams about living in her own place and what she's going to do with a million slugs and just, yes, this is going to be amazing and fantastic. She gets out and she goes to visit with a guy named Martin. And Martin is an inventor. Martin is an electrical engineer, which is kind of what I studied. So it's kind of like, boy, have I fallen. No. Okay, I'm good. Martin is an electrical engineer that creates devices and the kind of device that Jazz needs. And she goes there and she has schematics all drawn up for him. And she's like, I need you to build this. And he looks them over and he's like, this is amazing. Did you study electronics at all or anything like that? And she's like, no, I just looked it up on the internet and drew it from memory. And he's looking at it, he's like, what? Are you insane? You are incredibly talented. You should really get into this line of business. And she's like, no, I don't want to. I don't want to do any of that crap. My dad keeps on telling me to do that stuff. No, I'm not doing it. He's like, fine, I'll do it for you, but you could do it yourself. And she's like, no. So how much do I owe you? 2,000 slugs like always? And he's like, yeah, about that. Maybe I could, how to ask for this? Maybe I could ask you for a favor. She says, okay, I'm listening. And he says, well, you see, I've developed this. And he puts this like cylinder on the table. And she's like, what is this? He's like, I've developed this to go along with it. And he hands her a condom. And she's like, wait. What? And he says, it's an indestructible condom. It's got about 200 uses. And that tube thingy, it's a cleaner. It cleans the condom. She's like, oh, wait, has this been, oh, come on. And he's like, don't worry, the device sterilizes everything. And she's like, this is still really gross. And he's like, the favor I need is I need testing. I know how it feels on a man, but I have no idea how it feels on a woman. So the next time that you are, could you, and yeah, and she's like, oh, really? Fine. She reluctantly agrees. But she still needs more tools. So she goes and she visits her father. And her father is also creating a invention of a sort. And the thing is like, Martin created an invention that had to deal with sex, and her father is creating an invention that has to deal with religion. And it's just like the meeting of science and religion, just like, no, that doesn't fit right. But it works really well in the book, and I'm surprised by that. But her father is working on a way for Muslims to face the earth when they are praying, because the way that they do it now, they face east, and it's just, that's nowhere near Mecca. she collects some tools from him and she lies to him. She tells him that it's so that she can put a fire safety hatch in the apartment of this person that lives like on the outer rim of a bubble. To put a fire safety hatch there would be illegal. Her father's like, you know, you could be so much better than a welder. And she's like, shut up, Dad. I don't want to be a welder. She's like, fine, just go off and do what you want. And so she collects the tools, and that's the end of chapter 3. And then we have a couple of letters between her and Kelvin. The most interesting thing about these letters is Kelvin's talking about this fantastic spaceship called the Spruce that got them from the Earth to the moon. And he's like, did you write on that? And she's like, well, the Spruce wasn't really around, but it is a fantastic vessel. I would love to write on it someday. And he's like, oh, so what did you write on? And she's like, I wrote on this one. I believe it's called the Clement. No, that's not right. She wrote on another ship that was much smaller, and it's just kind of like the economy vessel for people now, because she was only 6. So she doesn't really remember a whole lot about coming to the moon, but there you go. And then we get to chapter 4, and it's kind of like, surprise, she's in a hotel. Because I don't remember her going to a hotel at all, or staying with her dad, or staying with Tron. I don't remember any of that. But she wakes up in a luscious bed, and she's like, I can't wait to live in this. And I'm like, how are you there now? I don't understand. Help me to understand. But she gets out of the hotel, and she goes down to the lobby. She says, oh, I need to pick up an HIB device, which is basically a rover that she is going to use to monitor the outside of the factory so that she knows when the factory can be infiltrated. And she picks up the HIB from this woman that doesn't speak English very well, and she takes it back. She's playing around with it, setting it all up, and then she decides, okay, it's time to do this thing. And she gets dressed up in hijab. I'm not saying that right, I know. in the traditional women's Muslim wear. She uses that as a disguise and goes down and she creates this whole new persona. And she gets a brand new gizmo from the hotel help desk and pretends to be a tourist, goes on a tourist trip to the outside of the moon. And it's kind of world building here. World building in an interesting way. She's riding the train to the outside world. She's getting in the hamster balls to walk around in the outside world. And I'm like, that's kind of brilliant. That's kind of amazing. I kind of love that. And as she's in the outside world, she pulls out the remote for her HIB device and positions it right where no one can see it, but it can still see the side of the factory. And then she just kind of basks and looks at the tiny little rocket that brought the first men to the moon. And she's like, I would never, ever, ever ride that. Not for $1 million. Wait, I would, but I would be very uncomfortable as long as I got that $1 million. And then we have more letters from Kelvin, and it's just talking about her relationship with a guy named Sean and her relationship with her father. And I'm just kind of like, I don't really care about that stuff. It's probably going to bite me in the ass, but I really don't care about that stuff, and I don't want to talk about it. So I'm not going to. So that's the end of our section for today. This section had a bit where, it was mostly just collecting things that she needed. There's not a whole lot of plot. The thing that really got to me was when her father was like, you could be so much better at doing this. And she's like, no, I want to do this. And I'm kind of like in that conversation with my parents right now. So, yeah. Screw you, Mom and Pop. Well, if you like what I'm doing, go ahead and click the subscribe button. If you like this video specifically, go ahead and click that like button. And go ahead and leave a comment letting me know if you got convinced to do what you wanted to do by your parents. I've been Elliot the Purple Hair Doofus. This has been Buddy Reads, reminding you to watch a Pajama Radius. And I will see you all in the next section of Artemis by Andy Weir. Toodles!